As a Stampeder fan, we have to love September, as you'll find out why, and a couple milestones have been set in this month as well. Excuse me, I'm going to block a field goal here, as you're also going to find out Ferguson can do it all. Time for another episode of Hey there, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to another episode of my Calgary Stampeders this month. Season 2, we're up to episode 5 here, as here we are, time to recap September 2019 in the CFL regular season here, and just like last month here, this video is going to be up a little early, but they also had a bye in the last week of the month here, so might as well get the video out as they've done their games in September here. And as you recall from last month here, Calgary was kind of in an unfamiliar spot here as they were coming into the bye after they played that wild game against the Montreal Alouettes. They were 5-4 and in 4th place in the West Division there. Definitely not a spot that the team is used to being in, especially being dominant the last couple of years. However, that was still a playoff spot, but a crossover given how much stronger the West is compared to the East. However, up to this point, we've been playing without our franchise quarterback, Bo Levi Mitchell here, but here we are going into September and, going on that bye, losing 2 in a row there. Maybe September is what the doctor ordered here, because I looked at a tidbit here coming into this month that the past 8 years, this has been the best record. The Stampeders have had the best winning percentage in the month of September here, so we should love September here, not only for beating up on the Edmonton Eskimos on Labour Day, but for the winning percentage here. So let's recap how September 2019 went here for the Calgary Stampeders here, as they had some work to do to, get back into the more familiar spot in the top of the West Division here. So before getting the games here, if you recall, in that wild game against the Montreal Alouettes here, there was that pregame brawl there that I actually happened to miss there, as between I watched warm up and went to the concourse and took a pit stop and grabbed something to eat and drink and moved up to the seat there. The brawl was over here, but I did see a couple players needed to be isolated here, and ultimately Winton McManus for the Calgary Stampeders, he didn't dress in that game, got fined, as well as Tommy Campbell, because they kind of had to escort him and had him walk around the field there separately there. So that's all that transpired from that brawl there. But let's get to the regular season here, and this is on Monday, September 2nd, Labor Day, Week 12, as it's the traditional Labor Day Classic here, where we have the Edmonton Eskimos come to town here, and we also salute our armed forces that game, and that's where we get the extra special national anthem there and the Jets. I captured a video of that over the years here. So the Labor Day Classic, and Labor Day has been pretty kind to the Calgary Stampeders here, as coming into this game, they have won 7 straight, dating back to 2012 there, and Bo Levi Mitchell, he actually returns from his Week 3 injury here, so things might be looking up here for the Calgary Stampeders. And I say it does, because I felt up to date here, this was the best overall effort by the Calgary Stampeders here. And I felt that after losing 2 close games and having to bye there, no better team to take your aggression out on than the dreaded Edmonton Eskimos for the Battle of Alberta here. I mean, Calgary started off strong, their offense was looking good, and opened up with a field goal and set up another on a Royce Mechie interception there. So Calgary had an early 6-0 lead there on 2 field goals here. Edmonton got on the board literally at the end of the 3rd quarter. So we had 2 Rennie Paradis field goals for Calgary, and a Sean White field goal for Edmonton there. So it was 6-3 Calgary after the first quarter there. I felt it was a little tentative to start, and keep in mind here, the season series was also on the line here because Calgary did also beat Edmonton in the game on the August long weekend here, so season series was also on the line here. So that was after the first quarter there. Midway in the second quarter, it looked like Edmonton took a lead there on a punt return for a touchdown for Christian Jones. However, it was called back on a legal block there, and that wiped it out there. Calgary had a single there, and Edmonton had a field goal. So it was 7-6 Calgary in the second quarter there. And then Calgary ultimately closed out the first half, where Bo Levi Mitchell showed he was, back in his old form there. Didn't look too rusty there. He drove the Stampeders down the field, and ultimately Nick Arbuckle, who also was a big part of why Calgary has been able to stay competitive there. So he ran in the 1-yard touchdown there, and then Bo found Reggie Bagleton for the 2-point conversion there. So Calgary enjoyed a 15-6 lead at halftime there. Third quarter, it featured actually long drives on both sides there. However, a field goal on each side was mustered out of it. So after 3 quarters, it was 18-9 Calgary there. However, Calgary looked like they were the better team there, but Edmonton's offense looked like they got going there. But as it's been the case for the Eskimos here, much of this lately is they can move the ball but not able to finish it off there. And then late in the third quarter, Calgary still had the ball there going in the fourth quarter there. They eventually scored a touchdown there where Bo Levi Mitchell found Reggie Bagleton in for the touchdown there. It looked just like a rainbow pass there. That it was a perfect rainbow that they threw right to Reggie Bagleton in the end zone there. And then after the point after, it gave Calgary a 25-9 lead there, and pretty much the defense took over for Labor Day there, and ultimately the Calgary Stampeders won this game 25-9, so they've won 8 Labor Day Classics in a row, and take the season series here because they won the 2 games at home here. And also, let's not forget that part of this complete effort by the Calgary Stampeders is that Kadeen Carey also had a great day on the ground there, so that maintains some long drives there for the Calgary Stampeders here. So let's go over some individual figures here, shall we? Bo, he's back. Looked like himself here. He was 19 for 28. He threw for 268 yards and the 1 touchdown pass. Kadeen Carey, 16 carries, 143 yards there, so a pretty good game for him. Lead receiver was Reggie Bagleton. He had 10 catches for 138 yards plus the touchdown there, and Winton McManus led the way on defense with 8 tackles there. So on the Edmonton side of the ball here, Trevor Harris, who I should mention that as a starter, he still has yet to beat the Calgary Stampeders in the whole time he's been in the CFL here. He was 27 of 35 there, 216 yards, and he threw that 1 interception for Royce Metchie there. Edmonton was contained well on the ground. They only had 55 yards rushing altogether there. Receivers, a couple of receivers to mention here is Nataya Day. He had 8 catches, 58 yards. And then former Stampeder, Devaris Daniels. He did not play in that game in August there, but he did play on Labor Day, and he had a fairly quiet game. He only had 5 catches for 48 yards. And then Jordan Hoover on defense for the Eskimos had 10 tackles there. So this now sets up the Labor Day rematch as you go up the road. This happens on Saturday, September 7th, week 13. The Calgary Stampeders go on the road to the brick field at Commonwealth Stadium. That was a 5 p.m. kickoff there. It was going back to 2:30 kickoff for at McMahon for Labor Day there. I made the trip up, as it is always an easy trip to make the trip up to Edmonton there, and I had a welcome rewards night on my hotels.com there, so I stayed overnight. So I made the trip up, and this Calgary was in position to seek for the complete sweep of the Edmonton Eskimos They haven't done that since 2014 when they played them 3 times that year. And I'm going to say Edmonton, at the start, did look a little better here, as they also benefited from a Bo Levi Mitchell interception that Don Wamba Jr. set them up on a short field, and then on that ensuing drive here, Trevor Harris connected with Tavon Smith for a touchdown to give Edmonton a 7-0 lead here. We knew that this was going to be a little tougher game there, knowing that Edmonton wanted to hold serve on their field there. And that was the first touchdown that the Edmonton Eskimos had against the Calgary Stampeders in over 8.5 quarters there. So it's pretty good there, all things considered. However, Calgary was able to get on the board late in the first quarter there on a Rene Perry's field goal. It was 7-3 out of the first here. However, I should also highlight here that Rob Maver can make a nice pass, as there was a punt that Calgary was going to build off a fake punt here, as Calgary was about midfield there. Threw a pass to Mante Milanovic leader. That's Rob Maver there. So should highlight that Calgary pulled off a nice fake punt there in the first quarter there. And then the second quarter there, Calgary started gaining their dominance, and this is definitely what I heard a lot of fans moaning about. This is the same thing we've been seeing all year here. Nice for me to hear when I'm on the road in Edmonton there, in between all the boos and, some people call Bo a pansy there, but that's the Battle of Alberta. But Calgary began their dominance there, as early in the second quarter there, Bo Levi Mitchell found Reggie Bagleton to make it 10-7 here for Calgary there. And then I should also mention that early in the second quarter there, Trevor Harris did not return in this game and was replaced by Logan Kilgore. They were saying upper body injury, so Logan Kilgore, the quarterback for the Edmonton Eskimos, took over for this game there. And then Edmonton was able to get another drive together for a field goal there. However, late in the second quarter there, the other receiver that stood up big time for the Calgary Stampeders is Eric Rogers, as that Bo Levi Mitchell was able to find Eric Rogers there. So Calgary was up 17-10, and that was the score at halftime there. After the halftime there, in third quarter, I'm going to say it was a little bit of a defensive struggle there, to say somewhat, but Calgary did produce a turnover there, but the Edmonton Eskimos didn't really capitalize there. However, Calgary was able to add on to the lead by 2 more field goals, or Rene Paredes. So after 3 quarters, the Calgary Stampeders looked pretty good with a 23-10 lead going into the fourth quarter there. And after Calgary had a field goal early in the fourth quarter there, Edmonton was driving here. However, Logan Kilgore threw up an interception that Deshaun Amos had a pick 6 there, turned it to the house, and gave Calgary a 33-10 lead, and that pretty much was one dangle for the Edmonton Eskimos to snuff out any hope for them. However, there was a drive that Edmonton Eskimos was able to march down the field, and eventually Logan Kilgore was able to run in a touchdown there. So they did make it 33-17 there. However, after Calgary 2-out there, Edmonton had another drive here that was snuffed out when they fumbled the ball, and Trey Roberson recovered the fumble there, and that pretty much snuffed out any hope for the Edmonton Eskimos in this game. And ultimately, the Calgary Stampeders take the Labour Day rematch 33-17, and ultimately sweep the season series by winning all 3 games against the Edmonton Eskimos there. And, ultimately Calgary was the better team in this game, and one milestone that was achieved in this game is that Bo Levi Mitchell passed Henry Burris for his 72nd win. So he's now the all-time winningest Calgary quarterback, although he has right now the all-time winningest winning percentage of quarterbacks in CFL history here. But Bo Levi Mitchell is definitely starting to climb himself up in the record books for being possibly the best quarterback to ever play for the Calgary Stampeders there. I know last season he surpassed Doug Flutie for second all-time in passing yards here. So let's highlight some individual numbers here for both teams there. Bo, he had not as good of a game as he did on Labour Day. He was 25 for 40, threw for 254 yards. Yeah, he threw for 2 interceptions. However, he threw for 3 interceptions, unfortunately. So 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions there. Edmonton definitely had a better day on run defense because Calgary only had 29 yards rushing altogether there. However, top 2 receivers was 84 and 4. People are moaning about those 2 numbers at Commonwealth there. Reggie Bagleton, 84, had 7 catches for 8 yards and a touchdown. And 4, Eric Rogers, he had 6 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown there. So those 2 have definitely been the top 2 receivers for Calgary this season. Jamar Wall, he led the way with 10 tackles, and then Rene Paredes, he had his 4 for 4 field goals with a 46-yarder being his longest. So on the Edmonton side of the ball here, Logan Kilgore, he was 21 for 28, 242 yards and an interception there. CJ Gable, he had a pretty good game overall. On the ground there, he was 12 carries, 60 yards there. Then when it comes to, receiving, Greg Ellenson, he was 6 catches for 82 yards, and CJ Gable, he had 8 catches for 66 yards, so that's a good day if you had him on fantasy there. And then Larry Dean led the way in the game with 12 tackles there. So that was the Labour Day rematch there. So Calgary definitely took back-to-back against Edmonton there. So now, the next game, I figured was going to be a tough one coming in. On Saturday, September the 14th, this is week 14, we were taking on the Hamilton Tiger Cats. 2 p.m. kickoff at McMahon, and I definitely felt coming in this was going to be a tough one because Hamilton definitely beat us in a close, tough one there back in July there, but I felt we had a bad day on special teams there. But Hamilton is still rolling with Dane Evans still at quarterback, despite Jeremiah Mazzoli being injured for the rest of the year there, and the fact that they still got Raylan Addison and Brandon Banks. This game would have featured both Reggie Bagleton and Brandon Banks, the top 2 leading receivers here. However, history is also on Calgary's side because Hamilton has not won at McMahon since 2004, and that was during the F-Troop days where Calgary wasn't doing too much winning, period. But that gives you a tell you it's been a long time since Hamilton has won in Calgary here. And I gotta say, there were lots of yards put up on both sides here, but it was between the 20s. So it was definitely bend but not break defense here. And Hamilton did start off strong here for the Tiger Cats, as Liam Harlaru had a field goal, but Rene Paredes had one late. So after the first quarter, it was 6-3 for Hamilton there. However, Hamilton was able to extend the lead early as Dane Evans connects with Brandon Banks in the end zone there, and the point after. Next thing you know, it was 14-3 for Hamilton there early in the second quarter. And then looked like Hamilton was driving late again in the second quarter there, and it got deep into Calgary territory there. However, Trey Roberson, he definitely is going to be the man of the game of this game. He first picked off Dane Evans and picked up his 7th interception of the season there. So that could have been, a big turning point in the game there. That it could have made the lead even bigger for Hamilton there. However, in the last minute of the second quarter there, to wrap up the first half, each team traded field goals. So Hamilton still had a comfortable lead at 17-6 at halftime there. That could have been worse there, but I'm going to say it's definitely lived up to being that tough game that I anticipated, and it was definitely a defensive struggle there. And it definitely continued in the third quarter there, the defensive struggle there. Actually, Hamilton, I'm going to say, only got 1 point in the second half there, and that was on a kickoff signal to start the second quarter there, or the second half, I should say. However, Calgary was still able to chip away at this lead there, because our defense definitely won the turnover battle here. However, he didn't fully capitalize. I think it was a tough. That's just why I say it was a defensive struggle there. However, Calgary was able to get 2 more field goals in the third quarter there. So they were able to chip away at the deficit there, and going into the fourth quarter there, the Calgary Stampeders were still behind 18-12 there by Hamilton. Finally, the Calgary offense got going there in the fourth quarter there, as Bo Levi Mitchell was able to connect with Eric Rogers there midway through the fourth quarter there, and the point after, and Calgary took their first lead at 19-18. So Calgary was up now 19-18 there after a few drives on both sides there that didn't produce any points there. This game was obviously coming down to the wire there. And then I felt that there was about 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter there. Calgary was still deep in their own territory. It was second and long there, and there was a questionable running play where it took too long to develop, and again in the backfield there that Hamilton definitely had time to snuff it out there, because at that time I felt Calgary just needed to keep the ball on the ground, keep it moving, and run out the clock there. But Hamilton was still able to get the ball after the punt. So Hamilton still had just under 2 minutes to go to work with, only down by 1. So I figured they were thinking about just drive it down, kick the field goal to win it here. Well, that's exactly what Hamilton was doing. They were driving the ball down, and then it became apparent they were definitely in field goal territory there. However, with just over 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter there, Hamilton was attempting a field goal there. However, Trey Roberson ultimately blocked the field goal there, and Calgary was able to get the ball, turnover and downs there, and was able to run out the clock and won a close one, 19-18 here. And that shows Calgary continued their dominance against the Hamilton Tiger Cats at home there, as it's been since, as I mentioned when I started to recap the game, Calgary has not lost to Hamilton since 2004. However, I'm going to footnote that I remember some games that it came down to Calgary kicking a winning field goal. And then there was another game, it was in the snow there, that it looked like we were going to lose and Hamilton was going to win on a field goal. And they messed up on the field goal attempt and there was no time left on the clock. And then I remember there was another game there that Calgary was basically in 3-down territory and gambled on a 3rd down to keep the game going. So there was definitely some close games in there, but I know that Hamilton fan is probably frustrated every time they lose here in Calgary. I feel your fans, a Flames fan with the Flames never seem to win in Anaheim, so I sympathize with you, Hamilton fan there. So as I gotta say, it was definitely a wild game. You know what? I would be happy to do it again on November 24th. We'll see. So let's go over some numbers here. There's a ton of numbers to highlight in this game because there was definitely still a lot of yards in there. Bo, he was 24 for 40, 342 yards, and a touchdown there. I know a couple of receivers had a tough day not connecting there. Kadeen Carey, he had 9 carries for 42 yards on the ground there. And then when it comes to receiving yards, Eric Rogers led the way with 8 catches and 129 yards and a touchdown there. Reggie Bagleton had 6 catches for 106 yards there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Wyndham McManus, Brandon Smith, each had 8 tackles. Royce Metchie had 7 tackles, but Trey Roberson definitely was the player of the game there. Yeah, he made 5 tackles, but he made a big interception that literally took points off the board for Hamilton there. And that field goal block. So Trey Roberson definitely took at least 9 points right off the board there for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So Trey Roberson, he could do it all. And you keep in mind that he actually played quarterback in college there. Let that sink in. So now if you look on the Hamilton side of the ball here, Dane Evans, he was pretty good. He was 34 for 43. He threw for 360 yards, touchdown and interception here. And then there was a couple guys that had a decent day on the ground. Anthony Coombs first had 7 carries, 35 yards. Braylon Anderson had 3 carries for 34 yards. Braylon Aslan also had 8 catches for 84 yards, and Brandon Banks, he had 8 catches for 105 yards, including that touchdown in the second quarter there. And then Carrier Brooks, Richard Leonard, Justin Double each had 6 tackles for the Hamilton Tiger Cats there, so there were definitely a lot of numbers in between the 20s there. So the last game that the Calgary Stampeders play before their Week 16 bye is they go to Toronto on Friday, September 20th. Week 15 action. The Calgary Stampeders are in Toronto at BMO Field, 5 p.m. kickoff here, and I felt this had trap game written all over it because it looked like a mismatch in the standings there, and the fact that Toronto's having a tough year. Plus, it was also easy to overlook that you have a bye, and then when I look ahead to October there, I can see why this was a trap game. So this was still a chance to, keep a perfect September and keep up with the playoff races as we said to October. However, there's one challenge coming in this game. Calgary will not have Reggie Bagleton, the leading receiver, and Corey Greenwood, the leading tackler here. But it didn't seem to face Calgary early here, as the Calgary Stampeders start off strong against the lowly Toronto Argonauts here. They got 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, one on a Terry Williams 24-yard run and a Kadeem Carey pass. So Calgary was up 14-0 after the first quarter there. Definitely things look good there. However, in the second quarter, there were only a couple field goals by Rene Paredes and 1 field goal by former Stampeder draft pick Tyler Krapinka there. So Calgary still enjoyed a 20-3 halftime lead. And then Toronto only got a field goal in the third quarter there to make it 20-6 there. However, Calgary did look close to getting a touchdown there. Derek Rogers was the intended target there, but it was intercepted by Jermaine Washington to keep the game somewhat reasonable there. So while it was 20-6 for Calgary after the third quarter there, Calgary almost struck a big touchdown there that Jermaine Washington literally took points off the board for Calgary there. So in the fourth quarter there, Rene Paredes and Tyler Krapinka, Rene for Calgary, Tyler for Toronto, traded field goals. So it was 23-9 for Calgary with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. However, Toronto was able to make things interesting there as close as the fourth quarter. Actually, McLeod Bethel Thompson, he struggled in this game. And ultimately, James Franklin came over and took over. He was just coming back from his injury there and actually injected some life into the Toronto Argonauts there as James Franklin was able to find Darryl Walker for a touchdown there. And Toronto was able to get closer in the game to make it 23-16 there. However, Calgary was able to hang on to win this one 23-16 and remained perfect and had a perfect September here. Another milestone that also got achieved in this game is Dave Dickenson, head coach of the Calgary Stampeders. He picked up win number 50. So congratulations to him. 50 win, and he's still in his 4th season as head coach, so it's pretty good for Dave there. So let's go over some numbers here. Bo, he still had a fairly good game, but threw a couple interceptions there. He was 33 for 48, 346 yards, touchdown, but 2 interceptions there. The only highlight for running is that Terry Williams, he had 3 carries for 20 yards and a touchdown there. Kadeem Carey got hurt in this game, and who knows what's up with him, but Calgary has a bye week next week. Eric Rogers led the way with receiving. He had 8 catches for 119 yards. However, some other receivers have picked up the slack here because, we've been without Johan Breskison, and Kamar Jordan is supposedly practicing, but there's no word on if he'll actually play this year. But Colton Hunchuk, he stepped up all right here in September. In this game, he had 5 catches for 52 yards. And Aaron Peck, he was the receiver that came off the practice roster and took Reggie Bagleton's spot. He had 6 catches for 42 yards. So next man up, still were able to spread the ball around. Still keeps working for my Calgary Toronto side of the ball here, well, Claude Bethel Thompson, he was 12 for 19, but only threw for 86 yards and an interception there. James Franklin, he came over in the fourth quarter there. He was 12 for 16, 147 yards and a touchdown there. So I still think there's a quarterback controversy in Toronto there. I mean, Franklin got hurt early, and also the fact that Toronto also got Zach Claris from Saskatchewan, but he's still recovering from his injury there. So maybe there's still sunnier days for the Toronto Argonauts here. James Wilder Jr. had 4 carries for 40 yards, and then receivers, while Monty Edwards, he had 5 catches for 80 yards. Darrell Walker, 5 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown there on the defensive side of the ball. Both he and Wild and Perry Woods had 7 tackles each there, and the thing is, hopefully there'll be sunnier days with the Toronto Argonauts when it comes to having a better team here, because actually less than 10,000 fans attended this game. I still think, in the market of 5 million people, you'd think you can find 20,000 people that love the CFL enough that you would pull off of that, but I guess it's also tough to get a fringe market when you haven't been winning too much, but they have some pieces, but that's all I could say about Toronto here. So after Week 15 action here, on how the scores broke down, actually the Calgary Stampeders are in the playoffs. They were tied with Winnipeg for first in the West Division at 9-4 there. So after Week 15, you got Winnipeg, Calgary, and Hamilton. They're all clinched playoff spots there. There's 3 more spots left to be had here. However, it looks like Saskatchewan will definitely be in the playoffs. Edmonton will likely cross over, and Montreal will get the second spot in the East there. And as I said, Week 16, Calgary's on a bye, in their last bye week of the season here. However, they're definitely going to need it, because in looking ahead to October here, it's going to really heat up with playoff races here. Because on Saturday, October 5th, Week 17, the Calgary Stampeders will be on the road in Montreal, taking on the Montreal Alouettes, Percival Molson Stadium, 2 p.m. kickoff. Ooh, that's definitely going to be another early game, even earlier game for the Calgary Stampeders there. And we lost that overtime thriller against Montreal last month there. But October really heats up, as on Friday, October 11th here, Week 18 action, the Calgary Stampeders are at home to take on the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 7:30 kickoff in McMahon Stadium, and Saskatchewan is right behind us. They're 8-4, third in the West, the game in hand, but we did beat Saskatchewan in July there. And then the last 2 games in October, we're going to be taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Saturday, October 18th, Week 19, the Calgary Stampeders will be hosting the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That'll be a 5 p.m. kickoff at McMahon Stadium. And we definitely need to win one or both of these games if we want to host the Western Final, because Winnipeg beat us, last month as well. And then Friday, October 25th, Week 20, the Calgary Stampeders will be in Winnipeg at IG Field. That'll be a 6:30 kickoff there. And then the last game, which I'll still do an October episode and a November episode, where in the November episode I'll go over more final numbers here. The Calgary Stampeders, Saturday, November 2nd. They always seem to like to play the BC Lions at the end of the season here, but the Calgary Stampeders will be in BC to take on the Lions, and they're all but done in my mind. Yeah, they feasted on the Ottawa Red Blacks the last 2 weeks, but the Ottawa Red Blacks are looking like they're more done than BC Lions. That'll be an 8 p.m. kickoff, and that's literally the last game in the CFL of the 2019 regular season before the Grey Cup here. So yeah, that's my Calgary Stampeders this month for September 2019 here, and history has lived up that we love September in terms of winning games and beating on the Edmonton Eskimos, and as a Calgary fan, it's always great to beat Edmonton here. However, we got back into the playoff race there, because now we're tied for first with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here, and setting up a fantastic October here for jockeying for position here. And Of course, the dream is still alive, and we're one step closer to the dream being alive with winning the Grey Cup at home. We brought it home last year. Now the dream is to keep it home when the game is here on Sunday, November 24th there. So of course, if you like everything I do on my YouTube channel, just make sure you hit like, subscribe here, and follow along here, and go Stamps go, and I'll see you in the next video, and hopefully October will be just as great as September as when recording my Calgary Stampeders here. So I'll talk to you soon.